For the California Constitution, we're going to start by putting our name and date at the top, and I'm going to read through this with you. So California became a part of the United States in 1848, but it wasn't yet a state. So it was part of the United States, but it wasn't its own state just yet. So this meant that people in California couldn't vote for their leaders yet. Many of them had moved out west when we were studying the gold rush, when everyone came over because they heard about the gold and they wanted to try and find gold and get rich. So a lot of people moved west during the gold rush and they wanted to have the same rights that they had in their old states. They didn't think it was fair not to. So in 1849, the governor decided to write a constitution to explain how the government would work in California. Now, constitution is going to be one of your important words here. Pay attention to it. Again, while we're reading, please make sure you are annotating, underline, highlight the important things, make little notes to help you remember things. If you're not sure about something, put a question mark next to it so you remember to ask me and I can help clarify. So like I said, in 1849, the governor of California decided to write a constitution to explain how the government would work in California. Remember, each state has their own government. So they held a constitutional convention to write the new guidelines. Slavery would be outlawed. That means it is not allowed. But only white men would be able to vote. So this means if you are African American, you didn't get to vote. If you are a woman, you didn't get to vote. If you were a Native American who was there first, it was their land, they didn't get to vote. The Constitution was written by a group of white men who decided that white men would be the only ones allowed to vote. Now, this won't hold for too long. This does eventually change, but that's how it started. The Constitution began with a Declaration of Rights. So this is a section that tells you what your freedoms are. What kind of rights do you have as a resident of California? So you had the freedom to speak or write your opinion without fear of punishment. So freedom of speech, like we have in the US Constitution, the right to petition the government for change, and the right to belong to any religion. So these are the same rights that we see in the Bill of Rights for the US Constitution. So we're going to take a look at this link, and we're going to explain the rights found in each section. So we're going to be looking at sections 3, 4, 9, and 18. Now, when we go ahead and open up this link, it's going to take us to the California Constitution from 1849. All right, what I'm going to do is I am going to open these in a split screen so that we can see exactly what we're doing. And let me see if I can get rid of this side. There we go. So we're going to start with section 3. So section 3 says the right of a trial by jury shall be secured to all and remain inviolate forever. But a jury trial may be waived by the parties in all civil cases in the manner to be prescribed by law. So what does this mean? Let's break this down. We want to know, what right does this give you? So section 3 allows you a trial by jury. That means you will have a group of people similar to you, a group of your peers, normal people, who will hear you out and hear out the other side and decide who they think is correct or who they think is telling the truth. It's not just a judge deciding for you, saying, well, I don't really like you, so I'm going to say no. I think you're guilty. I think you should be punished. Or it's not someone saying, this is a friend of mine, so I'm going to ignore whatever bad thing they did because they're a friend of mine, so I'm going to let them go. A trial by jury is allowed for all, so secured to all. And it can be waived. So if you and the other person decide, okay, we're going to settle this disagreement, we're going to figure it out, we don't need the jury, you can collectively decide, that's not a thing I need right now. So section 3 allows you a trial by jury that is allowed for everybody, no matter what, and it can be waived if the parties, that means the people who are involved, decide they want to waive it. Now for section 4, it says the free exercise and enjoyment of religious profession and worship without discrimination or preference shall forever be allowed in this state, and no person shall be rendered incompetent to be a witness or account on account of his opinions on matters of religious belief, but the liberty of conscience hereby secured shall not be so shall not be so construed as to excuse acts of licentiousness or justify practices inconsistent with the peace or safety of the state. All right. As you could tell when I was reading that, there's a lot of big words in there. That was a mouthful. But we're going to break it down into its pieces. The free exercise and enjoyment of religious profession and worship. Okay, what does that mean? That means religious freedom. You can practice and be a part of the religion that you want without discrimination or preference. That means no one should be able to discriminate against you because of your religion forever in this state. No person shall be rendered incompetent to be a witness on account of his opinions or matters of religious belief. So no one can say that you can't be a witness, or you can't be a jury member, or you can't participate in something because of your religion. That's the bulk of what Section 4 is about. Now let's take a look at Section 9. That's the next section we want to focus on here. So we're going to scroll down a bit. Now for Section 9, it says every citizen may freely speak, write, and publish his sentiments on all subjects, being responsible for the abuse of that right. And no law shall be passed to restrain or abridge the liberty of speech or of the press. In all criminal prosecutions or indictments for libels, the truth may be given in evidence to the jury, and if it shall appear to the jury that the matter charged as libellous is true. Sorry, I lost my place, guys. And was published with good motives and for justifiable ends, the party shall be acquitted, and the jury shall have the right to determine the law and the fact. All right. Again, a lot of very, very wordy sections here. Let's go back to the beginning and break it down. Every citizen may freely speak, write, and publish their sentiments, that means their thoughts, on all subjects, and they're responsible for the abuse of that right. And no law shall be passed to restrain or abridge, that means to cut out or shorten or change that liberty or that freedom of speech in the press. So Section 9 is about freedom of speech and the press. It means you can speak freely and you can publish or write freely. And in a prosecution, so if there is a court case, if there is a trial, and you are able to present documentation or something that is written that can be used to justify your actions, or that can be used to clear your name if someone thinks you did something wrong and you didn't, then the jury will take into account that written material to acquit you or to get those charges removed so that you're not found guilty. Now for Section 18, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, unless for the punishment of crimes, shall ever be tolerated in this state. So Section 18 is pretty clear cut and easy to follow. No slavery in any form, unless it's used as a punishment for crimes, is ever going to be allowed in the state of California. So that's going to take you through this page. The California Constitution is actually really interesting if you want to go through and read the other sections. I know that some of it can be very wordy, just like you saw when I was going through it and reading through it with you guys. But if you take it and break it apart into its parts, you'll see some really interesting information there. Now let's keep going. California Constitution establishes that there were 3 branches of government. Now we've talked about these in the past. We're going to review them again. We have the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. So the legislative branch has the senators and the representatives who make the laws. Legislation means laws, so legislative branch makes the laws. The executive branch is the governor who enforces the laws. So the executive branch is kind of like the highest power in that particular government. So in the US government, the executive branch would be the president. In a state government, the governor would be part of the executive branch. And then the judicial branch are the judges, so judicial judge. They interpret the laws to make sure that those laws are fair. So we're going to go into the Constitution one more time. And we're going to read some of the other articles that we skipped over the first time. Or we're going to go through, so we already did Article 4. So we're going to do sections 1 to 5. Who is in this branch? How long is their term? And who can run for office? So we're going to talk about the legislative department. So let's scroll down over here and we're going to go into Article 4 right there. And we're going to read about the legislative department. Now we're going to read sections 1 to 5. Now the things that we need to be looking for is who is in this branch, how long is their term, and who can run for office. So those are the three things we're going to focus on. So as you find them, write them down. So section 1, the legislative power of the state shall be vested in a Senate and Assembly, which shall be designated the legislature of the state of California. An enacting clause of every law shall be as follows. The people of the state of California, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. So basically what that means is that this is how you will start all of the laws that are written, that the legislative power is made up of the Senate and the Assembly, and that they are in charge of enacting laws or writing their laws. Section 2. The sessions of the legislature shall be an annual and shall commence on the first Monday of January, next ensuing the election of its members, unless the governor of the state shall, in the interim, convene the legislature by proclamation. So for section 2, what does it say? It says the sessions of legislature shall be annual. Annual means yearly. Okay. So we know that who is in this branch. We read in section 1, the people that are, or the committees that are in the branch, in the legislative branch, are again the Senate and the Assembly. How long is their term? We know the sessions of legislature shall be annual. That means yearly. So the terms are 1 year and shall commence on the first Monday of January. That means the first Monday of January is when that year starts. So the next group or the next elected people in those different areas in the legislature will come in on that first Monday of January. Next ensuing the elections of its members, unless the governor of the state shall, in the interim, that means for a short while, convene the legislature by proclamation. Section 3, the members of the assembly shall be chosen annually, so again, yearly, by the qualified electors of their respective districts on the Tuesday next after the first Monday in November, unless otherwise ordered by the legislature, and their term of office shall be 1 year. So again, 1 year term, they get to be selected or picked by the representative districts. So the districts that they are representing, the parts of the state that they are representing, are going to be the ones who would vote for them. Section 4, senators and members of assembly shall be duly qualified electors in the respective counties and districts which they represent. So that means that these members should be qualified, right? They should be able to do their job in those areas that they're representing. So those counties or those districts, those parts of the state that they're representing, they need to know their stuff. They need to be qualified. They need to know what the issues are over there, what the strengths of those areas are, what the areas of need are, so they can help support those counties and those districts that they're going to be representing. Section 5, senators shall be chosen for the term of 2 years at the same time and place as members of assembly. And no person shall be a member of the Senate or Assembly who has not been a citizen or inhabitant of the state for 1 year, and of the country or districts for which he or she shall be chosen 6 months next before his election. All right, so let's go back to our question. Who is in the branch? So we have We can go back up to the beginning. In the branch, we have the Senate and the Assembly. How long is the term and who can run for office? So senators have a term of 2 years. Now over here, we were reading about the members of the Assembly are going to be 1-year terms. The senators have 2-year terms. And who can run for office? It tells you right here. No person shall be a member of the Senate or Assembly who has not been a citizen and inhabitant of the state for 1 year. So you have to be, in order to run, you have to be a citizen and an inhabitant. That means you need to not just be a citizen, you need to be actively living there for a year. And of the country or district of which he shall be chosen 6 months next before his election. So you need to be living, basically you need to be there for at least a year before you can be chosen or before you can be elected or run for this particular position. Now we're going to go down to section 17. So we're still in Article 4. We're going to go down to section 17 and we're going to think about what does this section explain? Now section 17 over here, you can see is a bit lengthy, so a bit longer than the other ones, but we're going to read through it together. Every bill which may have passed the legislature shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the governor. Okay, so that's the first bit. So every bill, a bill is when you are proposing or you are suggesting a law. Every bill, before it becomes a law, has to be shown to the governor. If he approved it, he'll sign it. And if not, he's going to return it with his objections, saying why he doesn't approve it, to the House in which it originated. So he's going to return it to the place that it came from, which shall enter the same upon the journal and proceed to reconsider it. So the governor will take a look at these bills before they become laws. Either he agrees with it and he'll sign off and it will become a law, or he'll send it back and say, no, I don't agree with it. Here's my reasons why. So they'll try and rework it and reconsider it. If after the reconsideration, it again passes both houses, but by yeas and nays, so saying yes or no, by a majority of 2/3 of the members of each house present, it shall become a law, notwithstanding the governor's objections. So if any bill shall not be returned within 10 days after it shall have been presented to him, so except for Sunday, because that doesn't count, the same shall be a law in like manner if he signed it, unless the legislature by adjournment prevents such return. So either it's presented to the governor and he signs it off and he says, yep, I like it, I approve of it, go ahead, move forward, it becomes a law. Or he says, I don't approve of it, this is why, sending it back to you. Then it gets reworked. And then it's going to go and it's going to be voted on by the House, by each of the houses that are present. Now, if there is a 2/3 majority, if that means 2/3 or more agree to it, then it will become a law. So that's going to be section 17, basically, is that either a bill will become a law because it is approved by the governor, or it will become a law because it is voted in favor by a 2/3 majority by the houses. Now for Article 5, we're going to scroll down and we're going to be reading about the executive department or the executive branch, and we're going to be reading sections 1 to 3. Who is in this branch? How long is the term? And who can run for office? Okay, section 1. The supreme executive power of the state shall be vested in a chief magistrate who shall be styled the governor of the state of California. So basically, That's just a fancy way of saying that the supreme executive power, that means the highest power in the state government, will be called the governor. Section 2, the governor shall be elected by the qualified electors at the time and place of voting for members of assembly and shall hold his office 2 years from the time of his installation and until his successor shall be qualified. All right, what does that mean? That means the governor will be elected by people who are qualified to elect a governor. And he's going to hold his office for 2 years from the time that he is, installation basically means from the time that he's put into that office or into that position, and until his successor, that means the person who comes after him, is qualified and ready to take over that role. Section 3, no person shall be eligible to the office of the governor except at the first election who has not been a citizen of the United States and a resident of the state 2 years next preceding the election and attained the age of 25 years at the time of said election. Okay, so we've already covered all of our information for this section. Who is in this branch? The executive branch is the governor. How long is their term? The term we're going to see is put in Section 2. He shall hold his office for 2 years from the time of his installation. So the term is going to be 2 years. And who can run for office? The person who runs for office needs to be a citizen of the United States and a resident of that state for 2 years. And they need to be at least 25 years old. So those are your requirements there. Now we're going to take a look at sections 5 to 7, and we're going to list some of the responsibilities of the executive branch. So section 5, the governor shall be commander-in-chief of the militia, the army, and the navy of the state. Responsibility number 1, go ahead and put that down. He is in charge of the military of the state. Section 6, he shall transact all executive business with the office of government, civil and military, and may require information in writing from the officers of the executive department upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices. Section 7, he shall see that the laws are faithfully executed. So the first thing we put down, he's in charge of the military for that state. Section 6, he will be in charge of all executive business for the office of government. So he's going to be the one that makes the final call on all of those decisions. And section 7 says he shall see that the laws are faithfully executed. That means he's making sure that the laws are being followed correctly. So those are your responsibilities for that branch. We'll move into Article 6 about the Judicial Department, and we're going to be reading just sections 1 to 3 here. Now, section 1, we're going to write who's in this branch and how long is their term. So those are the only 2 questions for this section. The judicial power of this state shall be vested in the Supreme Court, in district courts, in county courts, and in justices of the peace. The legislature may also establish such municipal and other inferior courts as may be deemed necessary. So the judicial department is basically all the court systems in that state. The Supreme Court shall consist of a Chief Justice and 2 associate justices, any 2 of whom shall constitute a quorum. So it's a collection of basically 3 main judges. So you have the Chief Justice, who's the higher one, and then 2 assistants. Now, what do they mean by a quorum? So that they're basically talking about a majority. So any 2 of those 3 can create that majority when they're trying to make a decision. It can be either the Chief Justice and one of the associates, or it could be the 2 associates. It's basically just based on majority. Section 3, the justices of the Supreme Court shall be elected at the general election by qualified electors of the state and shall hold their office for the term of 6 years from the first day of January next after their election, provided that the legislature shall, at its first meeting, elect a Chief Justice and 2 associate justices of the Supreme Court by joint vote of both houses, and so classify them that one shall go out of office every 2 years. After the first election, the senior justice in commission shall be the Chief Justice. So again, I know they put a lot of information into some of these sections, but that's okay. We're going to break it down into small, easy parts. So the justices of the Supreme Court shall be elected by the general election, okay, by qualified electors of the state, and shall hold their office for the term of 6 years from the first day of January after their election. So regardless of when the election is happening, their term begins on January and it moves for 6 years from that date. Now, this is under the understanding that at their first meeting, they're going to elect the Chief Justice and the 2 associate justices. And those need to be voted in by both houses. And they're going to classify them that one of them is going to go out of office every 2 years. So the information you need to answer this question is who is in this branch. The Judicial Department is all the courts in the state. And how long is their term? So we're talking about the Supreme Court in the state. We're talking about the Chief Justice and the 2 associate justices. How long is their term? We know the total term is going to be 6 years. So go ahead and make sure you've got your answers down and you're writing or typing clearly, you're checking your spelling, and that your name and date are on your papers. And that will take you through your social studies assignment for this week. I apologize for tripping over my words while reading. It is very dense reading sometimes. This is why I wanted to go through it with you. I know that a lot of times when we're reading things that are more official documents like this, they do have a lot of information and they do use a lot of very heavy writing with some pretty difficult words to understand. So that's why I wanted to go through it with you and try and break it down. If you have any more questions, definitely let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.